Welcome back, folks. It's great to have you here on the EIB network. The telephone number is 800-282-2882 if you want to be with us. The email address, elrushbo@eibnet.com. I'm going to start with debate soundbites here pretty soon and then get to your phone calls. If you're on hold, hang in there. Be patient. There's something here I have to mention because I don't want to put this off to the side. It has nothing to do with the debate. It has everything to do with current events in America, but it's about something that happened in Germany, and it's about the immigrants and the refugees and so forth. And I don't want to put this aside and not get to it, as I've been doing with things all week. The story is from New Delhi television. 40% of Germans say that Chancellor Angela Merkel should resign over her refugee policy. It's polling data. 40% of Germans want Angela Merkel to quit. They want her to resign. They want her to wave goodbye and leave over her refugee policy, a poll showed today, a sign of rising dissatisfaction with her welcoming stance towards people fleeing conflict in the Middle East and Africa. Angela Merkel, who enjoyed record-high popularity ratings early last year, has grown increasingly isolated in recent months as members of her conservative bloc, right, have pressed her to take a tougher line on asylum seekers, and European allies have dragged their feet on the issue. Responding to popular pressure, Merkel's conservatives and their left-leaning Social Democrat coalition partners agreed yesterday to tighten asylum rules. Here's my question. Let's review what happened. When the latest wave of refugees from war-torn Syria began, they were going through Greece and other European Union nations, and they were mostly male, military-aged men, as they were being described, very few women, very few crumb crunchers. And so there was suspicion. Why are these able-bodied, military-aged men fleeing their own countries rather than staying there and fighting for their own countries? Why are they leaving in droves? I mean, to the tune of tens of thousands, if not more. And then the next question, why in the world is Angela Merkel welcoming them? It was so bad. She was bragging about the openness of Germany, and she was bragging about the fact that they were going to have 800,000 of them a year that would be allowed to emigrate to Germany and eventually become citizens. And I don't know if it was stated, but the widely believed reason was that Germany's birth rate is below replacement levels for whatever reason. People are having kids, fewer kids, not at all, or more abortions are on the rise or whatever, but the birth rate is not high enough to maintain Germany's population as it is at present. And one of the dangers of that is that there aren't enough Germans being born who will grow up to do the work in the German economy necessary to keep it humming. And so the theory was that Angela Merkel is excited and she's welcoming because this is the immediate solution to the labor force problem. And when all this was going down, everybody was, she lost her mind? What the hell is she thinking? 800,000 a year and bragging about it? And then we started hearing what was happening in Cologne and other parts of Germany where these very refugees were engaging in massive amounts of abuse of women, even rape in some cases, so bad that they had to have seminars with them to find out why they thought, these men, why they thought that they had open season on German women. I'm not making this up. Typical of liberals. Here comes a bunch of foreign refugees. They immediately start mistreating the women in the country. And the powers that be in Germany say, gosh, what did we do to cause this? Just like after 9/11, so many of our elites, gee, what did we do to make them so mad? They wanted to blow up the World Trade Center. In other words, why did they hate us? What did we do? Is it our fault? So they were having seminars with these men, and these men were saying, well, hey, when we go someplace and we see these women with bare shoulders in our country, if that's ever permitted, it's a signal. Or when a woman smiles at you, that's a come on. These guys were telling the German officials this. So they were sitting down and having seminars with these immigrants saying, no. You must understand that when Germans dance, it doesn't mean that they want to have sex in minutes. And when a woman smiles at you, it's just nothing more than, hi, how are you? But the question, why did she, in the first place, why did she act like she did at the very beginning? When the whole process started, here she was practically alone in being excited about it, bragging about it, talking about 800,000, and everybody could see this is going to be the ruination of Germany. Everybody could see this is the absolute wrong thing. Why did she do it? And the answer to that question, I think, is the same answer that we would get when we ask the same question here. What in the world is our establishment doing? What does the Chamber of Commerce not get? What do all of these comprehensive immigration reform people not get? Why don't they understand that millions of illegals who can't speak English, who have no education and no job skills, how in the world does that help this country? What in the world are they thinking? We're asking the same question. So in Angela Merkel's case, why do it? I have no doubt. I think the answer is multi-pronged. I think she did it in large part because she wanted to show the world that she was not racist or bigoted and that she wanted to show compassion. It echoes the same sentiments that we get here from leftists in this country. Well, if somebody is war-torn and beat up and poor, and they want to come to my country to improve their lives, I am not going to be the one they say they can't come. Something like that. Or maybe something even more hideous. Now, we know what it is in this country. We know the Chamber of Commerce is cheap labor, and we know the Democrats are looking at it as a voter registration drive. And everything else they say is a lie. It isn't about improving the U.S. economy. It's not about jobs Americans won't do. It isn't about compassion, which is what they really rely on. I mean, that's what the Democrats always rely on to gain a moral superiority for every one of their policies. It's claim it's all rooted in compassion, understanding, and fairness. You leave this country and the Constitution in their hands, and it becomes a suicide pact. That's what the American people know, and that's why amnesty, illegal immigration, is and is going to remain the primary seminal issue throughout this presidential campaign. Anyway, in Germany, they're now saying, wait a minute, they want her to quit. They want this stopped. There was nothing good that was ever going to happen. Everybody knew it at the beginning, but she did it anyway. Merkel did it anyway. I don't doubt she did it to curry favor with international partners like Obama, the United Nations. You know, Germany in Europe is the equivalent of the U.S. in the sense that whenever anybody's out of money, that's where they go to get it. And I think she has a little guilt complex about being one of the few countries in the European Union that's not in as dire straits as everybody else is. But it's senseless. And these are the supposed smartest, the best and brightest among us. You know, we heard yesterday what's happening in Sweden and what's going on in Denmark. In Denmark, they're seizing the property of these refugees and immigrants. Denmark, I mean, that's Crazy Bernie's ideal country. And they are seizing possessions and property because they can't afford to provide everything for these people. They can't afford to feed everybody. They can't afford to house everybody. They can't afford everybody's medical care. And yet the assumption is that it will be provided. Every one of these people arriving is assuming they're going to get someplace to live paid for. They're going to have clothes paid for. They're going to have school for their kids paid for if their kids come with them. They're going to have whatever they need. Medical care, it's going to be provided. That's the assumption they all arrive with. And I find it fascinating. All of these leftists in all of these European countries, these democratic socialist countries, are finally starting to realize they don't have the money for this. It's one thing when they do all this for their own citizens, I guess, who can vote. My point is, there's some common sense surfacing now in Europe over all this. And yet in this country, we keep hearing from people like Obama and others that we can't turn them away, and we must allow them in. That's who we are. We cannot allow our values to be compromised. Blah, blah, blah. Our values are not a suicide pact. All right, time out. Back after this break with your phone calls and debate sound bites and whatever else happens. Sit tight.